Renee,
Here.
Newell,
Here.
Robert,
Here.
and Louis is not able to make it.
Okay, thank you. Let's rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Play ball.
All right. Item number 4. Item number 4, public comment, items relating to the comp plan but not on the agenda. Do we have any public comment tonight not relating to items on the agenda? Hearing none, seeing none. Is that any from you, Mr. Councilmember? No? Good? Okay, awesome. Let's move on to number 5, old business. A, approval of minutes for July 2025.
Move to approve.
Second, Robert, you have it?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 5B, South Florida Water Management District response on easements west of US 27. Jeff, you want to go ahead and kick us off?
Well, the last time the board took this up, the board wanted to get a response from South Florida Water Management District as to the reason behind their requesting these strips of right-of-way be vacated. And there's an email in the back up here from the Water Management District saying that the Army Corps of Engineers requires that their land be contiguous and that the outstanding road strips are a hindrance to becoming certified and credited. Don't know what that means. It said the strips will not be developed as they're simply part of the water preserve area. I would say that I don't have any background beyond what you see here. I don't know if there's been any more follow-up. Emily might be able to add something to this conversation, but it doesn't explain what certified and credited means, and it doesn't explain why they're not seeking to vacate other strips that would make their lands
Yeah, I want to know why these 3 and not the other 4 also. So,
And that was the question we asked, right?
yeah.
So I would.
We haven't answered as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, so I would say our next step is to go back and push for an answer. Push for a more direct answer.
Emily, do you have any other background on this?
Unfortunately, I do not.
Okay.
Hey, this is Steve. Can I jump in there just for a second?
Go right ahead.
Thank you. So I don't have a whole lot more than what you just read. I did have a conversation with Russell on this exact topic, and I think what I have a comfortable feeling about, I don't understand exactly that terminology either, but based on the conversation that went on, it was clear to me that they're not doing any sort of development there. They are kind of crossing the T's, dotting the I's, so that everything is in alignment. There's not pieces missing. But they were clear that they're not doing any development there, and that's not why they're requesting this. So I'm going to ask for more information. I get that it didn't answer the question, but I will say that after the conversation, I was very comfortable that this is not something that's going to hurt the town, but we still don't fully understand it.
Is there any exigency that would suggest we shouldn't take the time to get a better answer?
Well, the only thing that I would say is that maybe the question wasn't posed properly. You know, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But this is a partner that we want to work with, and I think they're just kind of, you know, my understanding is they're trying to clean up some items, and I don't want it to turn into an adversarial type of question, like this is house cleaning, and now we're going back a second time. So I'm a little hesitant about that. I don't think we're approaching it yet, but I'll be honest with you, you know, me personally, I'm very comfortable with it, but I understand this is the board, and you know, I stand by whatever decisions you all make. I'm not, but I just don't want to push it too far to where they become kind of aggravated that we're just trying to clean this thing up, and you all are holding us back. That's all.
You know, I think the email was pretty innocuous. You know, if that's the kind of thing that's going to set them off or be taken as adversarial, then there's other issues going on. You had a comment, Renee?
My question, since I missed the last meeting, the other strips of land that they're not requesting the right-of-way on, are they contiguous as well? Since it seems like in this benign letter that that's the main point, that these are contiguous. So are the other ones contiguous as well?
There's 7 easements, east-west easements in there for roads. And they're requesting only the 3 southernmost
Right, I don't know.
easements be removed. If they were going to have something about it being, you know, what they said, why didn't they request all 7? Because then they'll have to come back and do the other point. Is there something that this makes it impossible for them to do in the conservation area? Do they want to put a mine in there?
You know, Newell, I would propose that perhaps you work with Russell on preparing a follow-up inquiry, non-adversarial inquiry to just try and get some more clarity.
Oh, you want Russell to help me down?
I was thinking the other way around, but okay. That would be my suggestion. Yes, sir.
Just a quick question, maybe I missed it, but does the Army Corps own that strip of land? I'm trying to understand what is contiguous and anything to do with the Army Corps. What is it?
Their water management is seeking some kind of a certification from the Army Corps of Engineers. We don't know what that means.
Okay.
And it requires that whatever lands they're seeking the certification for apparently have to be contiguous. And we have these little strips of right-of-way
Right.
that prevent it from being contiguous.
Okay.
Chair,
Go ahead.
point of information, you asked Joe what he reported for.
Yes, sir, what's the recording for? What are you recording for? Who are you recording for?
The whole thing, the whole meeting,
Okay, for what purpose?
public.
Yeah, I understand it's public.
I was told.
You were told? By who? By who?
Somebody asked me to do it.
Who?
Sounds like a good idea.
Who?
Miguel,
Excuse me.
Miguel,
I'm sorry?
Miguel,
Miguel who?
Hernandez.
Miguel Hernandez. Okay, thank you.
If there is any problem, let me know now.
Yeah. No problem,
Okay,
we're
thank
just
you.
curious.
Okay.
Newell, you fine with working with Russell for
I'll
a
work
follow-up
with
request?
Russell on that.
Okay. Item C, 5C, did we make the changes, Jeff?
Yes, we did.
Okay, let's jump into that. Review of comprehensive plan, blue policy 1-17B.
Okay, so this is a policy that is trying to balance, to continue the residents' rights to septic and well without any obligation to connect to municipal water or sewer, while also at the same time allowing folks to connect to water and sewer when they want to, and the applicable utility will extend the lines. But also balancing that with planning for 40 years from now or 50 years or whatever the case may be, when we may have increased salinization of our wells and they may become less feasible, as well as some of the septic tank drain fields being threatened by higher seasonal water tables. So the reworded policy reads, the town recognizes that long-range projections for salinization of the Biscayne aquifer and higher groundwater elevations would threaten continued reliance on wells and septic tanks if these things happen as projected. Accordingly, the town shall work with any adjoining municipality to establish future public water and sanitary sewer service areas Although the town is planning for projected conditions, it remains the general policy of the town not to finance or otherwise cause the extension of public potable water or sanitary sewer systems within its boundaries unless and until the town determines that the continued use of wells and septic systems is no longer feasible. This policy does not preclude service to its governmental facilities when necessary, nor does it preclude the town council from authorizing requests from property owners within the town to extend public potable water or sanitary sewer systems to serve their properties at no cost to the town.
I think that's what we asked for. Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion, do we have a second? Second. Do we have any discussion?
I think it's very well written
It's definitely an improvement.
and succinct.
Definitely an improvement. We have any public comment on this section? Anybody wanna comment? Okay.
Yeah, final seat.
Hearing none, let's go ahead and call the roll. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Passes unanimously. Let's move on to 5D, illegal businesses in Southwest Ranches.
Hey, well, we left off at the last meeting, looking at this as it's been reformatted. It was, I think, a lot for everybody to try to grasp and understand the way it was written. So, at the board's direction, I broke this out into a more standard resolution or ordinance format, and even though it's just a resolution, it's more readable that way. One of the things that was important was that it was very clear that the amount of time that a business has to comply, essentially to cease the business and comply with the code, is based upon the greater of either time that the business has existed on that property or the amount of structural improvement value that has been invested in that property. So for example, if the business has only existed for, say, 6 months, but is invested $500,000, you're gonna get the benefit of the $500,000 2-year time frame that's associated with that. And if the business has existed on the property for, say, 2 years, but only invested $50,000, you get the benefit of the 2 years, which is a 6-month compliance period. So you get the greater of the two. The other thing, so none of that was substantive, it was really just making it clear. The other thing we did that you haven't seen before was we had an item B, paragraph B, sort of an open-ended question as to how structural improvements would be valued. What's the basis for determining how much somebody's invested in structural improvements to a property? And so the way it reads now is the value of structural improvements shall be the job value upon which the building permit application fee or fees were based. Improvements made without building permits shall have a structural improvement value of $50,000 or less. So that's for $50,000 or less is the lowest category for structural improvement value. Otherwise, nothing else has changed.
Okay, what I'd like you to do, Jeff, if you would, is go to the first page, the 5th whereas clause, and just explain that to us, please.
It says, whereas such proactive enforcement does not seek to override any protections for agriculturally related businesses or home-based businesses that may be protected by law. So this is acknowledging that properties designated with an ag classification by the Property Appraiser's Office are protected under the Right to Farm Act. This ordinance does not affect any farming operation or agricultural operation that has an ag classification. Now, if it's a a business that is not related to the farming, and it happens to be conducted on the same parcel or even within the ag classification, that's not what this is saying. This is saying that if you have a farm and you have an ag classification, this does not affect that business. It's also saying that, acknowledging that Florida statutes has established criteria for home-based businesses that is much broader than had previously been allowed in the town, and in fact broader than was allowed in most municipalities. And so again, those protections are being respected by this policy.
Can you give an example of that?
And not just one example, maybe you can, put some meat on the bones of that.
Sure. So
What kind of businesses is this referring to?
So,
As home-based businesses
for a home-based
that are
bus-
not subject to this regulation?
Oh, and also, this, just to be clear, this isn't a regulation, this is a policy.
Yeah.
Because the town generally does not practice proactive code enforcement, it's reactive. This is a policy to define how the town would initiate proactive enforcement for businesses that are not legal. Now, a home-based business is essentially almost any type of business that you can conduct in your house that doesn't change the character of the home as a residence. It doesn't change the appearance of the home as a residence from the street. It doesn't cause nuisances, if you're operating heavy equipment, for example, to the neighbors, and doesn't employ, I think it's more than 2 people who don't live on the property. There are various other aspects to it, which I don't have the tip of my tongue, but that's essentially it. So there's no limit as to how much of your house you can use as long as it is a residence. Whereas before it was like 10% of your house or something, now you could use 30, 40%, whatever. That's not restricted. Previously, if you were a hairstylist or a dentist, you couldn't have customers come to your house. You couldn't hire a dental hygienist, for example, to come work in your home business. Now you can do all that. The restrictions on commercial vehicles are unchanged. There are up to 2 take-home vehicles allowed on any residential property if 2 people are employed in whatever business involves those vehicles. And I know there's some correlation with acreage. I'm sorry, I don't have that at the tip of my tongue either. But this policy is not about that. It's only about businesses that aren't legal, haven't been legal most likely, because the town really hasn't changed the permitted uses in the rural and agricultural districts. I can think of maybe one example where that's really changed. This is a guideline, a set of guidelines for how the town would approach bringing these businesses that have not been legal into compliance and phasing them out.
Can you give some examples of businesses that are illegal or that would be subject to this policy?
Well, any business that is not as I described as a home business and is not an agricultural business is probably not legal. So that would include, I think, lawn and landscape maintenance businesses that aren't purely incidental to a nursery. For example, if a nursery has a crew that goes out and installs, delivers and installs landscaping materials, that's fine. But if they come and mow the lawn every other week, that's not. I think that's maybe one of the more common examples. I've heard of steel fabrication going on properties, truck farms, where people park commercial vehicles for some other business because it's the it's the least expensive way to park them somewhere. Storing things for people outside. Those are just some examples that come to mind.
Do we have a motion from the board?
I have a motion to approve minus section 2.
So that, which is the section that makes it proactive code enforcement?
Correct, because it won't pass.
So if you were to, well, if you want to make a motion, go ahead and make the motion. If we have a second, we'll have discussion.
I made the motion.
Okay, do we have a second? Hearing none, the motion fails.
Okay. And at this point, we might as well close the meeting because it will not pass.
Well,
Takes a 5-0 vote.
what I, right now, you know, we are not a 5-0 vote, we're not council, and we're taking it under consideration for council. So let's have a motion, we'll discuss it, and we'll see if it passes here. And whatever happens here, it goes on to council. So we have a motion from Renee to accept as written, second by Robert. Let's open it up for discussion. Why don't you start, Noel?
Yeah. We're talking about, you say they have been illegal all this time, even before we were a town?
That's a fair question. We haven't changed the permitted uses for landscape businesses, for example. And as far as we know, it's not ever been legal under Broward County's ordinances either. I think I can't talk about representations that were made or not made at any time by anybody who worked for the county, but we have the zoning code that existed before the town adopted its own code. And we adopted it almost verbatim.
Okay. Well, when the state of Florida changed barns in 2013 and made all of the barns that were not done with a permit in the county illegal, we were 2 years to find a workaround. And all of those barns are legal until 2035 now. So when we figure that the usefulness of that barn is completely used up at that point. And so I think we need to find a workaround for those businesses that aren't causing a lot of problem to the various individuals in our town that have had this business since we were a city, municipality, and for the last 20 years or so have been good neighbors. And they have maybe 1 truck or 2 trucks, which is what we say, and you're saying that their landscaping operation is illegal. Because they leave after 7 o'clock in the morning, and they come back after, before 7 o'clock at night, and they cause a lot of problems, and they're good neighbors.
So I understand exactly what you're saying. How would you grandfather them? Would it be indefinitely? Would it be for a period of time? Would it be while they're under the same ownership? How would you do it?
I think those that have been long-term without having any problems, complaints to the municipality, and et cetera, haven't gotten so big that they've got, 10 trucks coming in and 50 employees showing up every morning, or whatever, and clogging the roads and having deliveries show up and everything else. That there needs to be some dispensation.
I think if you're gonna propose some kind of grandfathering, we need to have some kind of objective standards for it.
I think so too.
But I'm listening to you describe it, and it's very subjective, that hasn't been causing any problems.
Well,
That, I mean, that's subjective, you know, to
I
one,
know, I
to,
know.
to one person it's an
You
angel,
could
and to
go
another
to war
person,
with
you
your
know,
neighbor,
it's
and
the
that neighbor
opposite.
could complain, and then,
Yeah.
you know, but,
I'm not trying to decide what is and what isn't, other than we need to define it if we're going to.
There's
if we're
definitely a
gonna
way
do
to
that.
do it, and it doesn't have to be, I don't think it has to be burdensome to define it. It might be
Burdensome to
a little
apply
bit more
it.
burdensome to apply it, and I'll tell you why. I mean, actually, it makes sense, if you know, because then you're addressing the businesses based upon whether they're having an impact or not, you know, a negative impact. Whereas right now, the business owner has to prove how many years they've been in business at that location, and you can accept that proof or not. And they have to prove how much money they've invested. Now, the burden shifts a little bit. We're like, how do they?
But they're gonna have to do
They
the
can make
same,
representations about how they operate.
but they're gonna have to do the same types of things to get us an objective standard.
Right. It's just
You know,
that.
it's just upon whether whether they're grandfathered versus whether we're talking about shutting it down.
The difference, though, what I'm saying is that if they can prove, they may be able to prove via piece of paper how much money has been invested. If they have the building receipts, you know, then they have it, it's there. They may have other receipts and whatnot that show, you know, utility bills, who knows, whatever. But different ways of documenting that they've been in business at that location for, you know, X number of years. But now we're talking about things, some of them are operationally based, you know, like vehicles, you know, and hours, and stuff like that. And that's harder to verify. That's harder for them to give you a piece of paper and say, yeah, okay, that makes sense, or it doesn't. But it's totally doable to approach it this way. You know, we could require, you know, that the business, maybe it's an indoor business, but for X number of commercial vehicles that can be parked or, you know, whatever, on the property. You know, that it's compliant with all the outdoor lighting standards, that there's no noise, there haven't been any noise violations. I mean, it's possible to do it.
Yes, no?
I think what we need to do is open it up to the public and hear
We'll
what they
get
have
there.
to say.
Okay, Robert, yes, nothing to add to it. Renee?
I just was gonna ask Newell if he was referring to all businesses, because you specifically identified landscaping. But personally, I feel that unless, if you're going to make that kind of decision and change, then it has to apply to all businesses
I agree.
that have been in existence and in compliance.
I agree.
I'm not in favor of that, that's not what I'm stating, but I just think that we have to make it clear that that's what it would apply to if we were doing something.
I
Or
think
things that
that a
exist in
business
front.
that does like sheet metal work and stuff like that, if between the hours of 7 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock at night, and they're not being disrespectful to the neighborhood as to, you know, severe noise and everything else, and deliveries and sending trucks in and sending trucks out all day, that's acceptable. And it's a family business, not a property that is bought for the explicit purpose of that business. In other words, it's gotta have homestead on it.
Homestead on it and operated by the people who have the homestead?
Yes,
And then objective items that determine what puts them in that category.
yeah.
Because being a good neighbor or not, you know, making a lot of noise, those
Well-
are all not objectively measurable.
There was a person for a while at Dean's Ranches that repaired aircraft in his garage. And when he spray painted the paint, aircraft paint, it was highly odorous, and the neighbors, several of them got sick from the paint fumes. And that was, I would say that would be a reason to cause harm in their neighborhood. And that would be a reason to say, okay, you can do everything, but you can't paint them.
And I just had two other questions.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Does that mean as well, that if someone moved in the home, would they be entitled to take over that business? Or is our goal to become compliant with this at some point, like we brought up with the lighting in the community, that will give people a certain amount of time to become compliant with it, so that it doesn't continue against what the existing rules are, and that some people are under the law and some people aren't complying with it.
I think that's something to look at. You know, how do we quantitatively measure it and say that, you know, you have X number of time, like this here.
Right.
I'm not too happy with the total number of years, but at the same time, I can see where someone would want that long.
Well, let me ask you this. You know, let's use the example you gave a few minutes ago about someone doing sheet metal work. Suppose the person who does sheet metal work decides they're going to sell their sheet metal business along with their house to somebody else who's going to come buy it and operate that sheet metal business and potentially live in the house. Should this grandfather continue
No.
to that new
The
person or
grandfather always disappears upon the sale
or
of that
transfer?
property.
Okay.
Always. They continue or reinstated under something else by the town council. But if they sell it, it's gone. So that's, you know, that's what a grandfather is. And basically what we did with the barns.
Well, the grandfather really looks at how it was used in the past and should that be allowed to continue. It's not, unless you make it explicit that it's not going to, that it dies with the transfer of the property, then it's not going to die with the transfer of the property.
Then I would say that we make
It
it
should
that
be in
way.
there. Robert?
What if you sell the business and then rent the house to the people you sold the business to? So you technically still own the house.
Well, and I guess that's the question I asked Noel, does it also have to be operated by the person who has the homestead on the property?
By those that have the homes, yeah. We're talking about basically a home-based business, expanding the rules of the home-based business.
So what I'd be interested to do for the public who's here is limited to the idea for the moment of this grandfather concept being added in. If anybody has any comments they'd like to add of what they would consider makes sense to include in a grandfather type provision. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to include that if it is a family member.
Speak to everybody.
Hi, my name is Linda Flack. I live at 17401 Southwest 70th Place. And by listening to your discussion, I have a question. What if the business is given to your family member, a generation, and it's not, why wouldn't it be able to continue under the grandfather code, or whatever you call it, grandfather?
Well, there's none of, that's why we're talking this
Right,
through.
so
It
that
hasn't
would
been.
be my suggestion would
yeah.
be, it should be able to stay in the family
Okay.
as a business, same as it has been
If
continued.
the property in the business transfers
Correct.
to a relative or the next generation, then it would continue,
I think so. I mean, that's just I'm just saying, that would be a part of that grandfather
Okay.
in.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, we just want to hear ideas.
Okay.
And, what would be a reasonable provisions if we add a grandfather provision to include? And that's a very reasonable one. Other comments, yes?
I'm sorry, my name's Matt Moreno, and I've been here 30 years before it was a city, and I'm thinking about retiring one day, and my sons, they're gonna take over, and I have a will and a trust, and that's 30 years of a legacy. And
That's why we're talking about it.
and I never got a complaint. So it needs to be looked into. And I can see where you're coming from also, because it got a little bit out of control, but, that's been a lot of new businesses. But somebody here 30 years ago,
I don't think anyone's going to argue with you about what you're
No,
saying.
I'm just saying, I consider myself grandfathered in while we're on this subject. I got my boys here, and then you're thinking of a stroke of a pen, and you saying, yay, it's gonna change something. That ain't right.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's talking about, well, first of all,
Well, I'm
everything,
making it clear.
hang on a second. You know, everything we do here are recommendations that are made to town council. Okay, it's nothing that we do here as a committee.
Well, apparently
And-
nobody knew about
sir,
this meeting
sir,
until it was like on the sneak.
Sir, if, I'm not gonna interrupt you,
All right, I'm sorry.
you know, if you don't interrupt me.
All right.
So, you know, for whatever reason, no one knew about the meeting. It seems some people found out because, you know, we have people here today.
Yeah.
So we're trying to see, Newell has suggested adding a grandfather clause.
Yes,
I
sir.
think most people here think that it makes sense to do something like that. And if anybody doesn't, I want to hear your voice as well. But right now, and I'll come back to you in just a minute, sir. But it sounds like the thought is, let's include some grandfather provisions, and for the reasons that you articulated, ma'am, and that you articulated, sir.
Yes, sir.
They make sense.
Thank you.
So that's why we're talking about it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to retain some time if there's later discussions, but for the discussion of the grandfather clause.
You're not on the clock, unlimited on the clock.
Oh, no, I mean, are we
Right.
gonna go back later for further discussion, or is this just?
Well, let's start here and see where we get
Okay,
to.
so as far as the grandfather clauses, we're gonna consider something. Like Matt, I'm Matt's neighbor, I've been here 23 years. The reason I bought my property was primarily to do some farming, some agricultural work. And my friends that were some of the founders of this town are the ones that told me to come and buy here. Probably longer than a lot of you ever lived in this town. So I've been on this property 23 years doing my work. And if we're talking about grandfathering, then I want you guys, if you want to try to get this passed, put a provision in that if the property and ownership of the corporation or the company that's doing the business changes hands, if they retain the same name, then the grandfather clause continues. It's the same thing.
Well, it's not the same thing, though.
That's what I want you to consider. It's
So-
the same thing as if we're giving it to our children, or we're going to,
Yeah, but you see, I would say that's not the same thing as giving it to your children, because just by maintaining the same name, you can transfer it to anybody in the world. And then the question is, should the grandfather continue? And I think the idea was, and that's why we're trying to define what the grandfather should look like. And the points that were made over here and that were made over here are really good points. I think the idea that you're suggesting swallows the whole rule. All you have to do is keep the same name.
I don't think so, and I'll tell you why, because for 23 years, I've invested a lot of money in this town. I put a lot of money onto my property. I run a clean business. I help the town of Dayton Police Department whenever they have an issue in your town. I've got the best cameras in the town. And detectives come knocking on my door every single time. They want to see the video. I'm a good neighbor, okay? So, the amount of investment that I put into this town, into my business, you guys don't understand what it is working with your hands for 10, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Sticking your hands in dirt, moving dirt, lifting heavy palms. I got disc problems in my back. I busted my ass working, building that business, okay? So all I'm asking is that if I decide to retire one day and sell it, because I put so much time, sweat, blood, and tears into my business, that I retain the right to sell it as I've been running it for some other future young farmer that wants to continue. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you for your feedback.
I
Comments?
have one
Any-
question for the gentleman.
Go ahead.
Do you have agricultural classification?
Yes, I do.
Then you're not covered at all.
Say again?
Then this has nothing to do with you.
We're talking about grandfather clauses.
No.
Why not put it in there?
Because you have
understand.
the agricultural classification.
I understand.
It has nothing to do with you. We're talking about those that do not have the agricultural classification and do not have a legitimate home-based business as we define it now. Those that have had those businesses, maybe they started out small, one truck, and now they've grown much larger, which everyone hopes to do with their business. But at some point, it becomes more than what should be on a residential property. Those we see, and then we have those people who buy the property and then abuse the rules of our town, and we've got quite a few of those in town. And those we have problems with, and they will continue to be problems. And hopefully, this will be some alleviation of those problems for the residents that are affected in those areas. And that's all we're trying to do. We're not trying to drive businesses out of town. And I think having a grandfather clause, or as Lori Parrish used to say, a grand person clause. And so let's talk about how we can do this grandfather clause or grand person clause, however you want to say it. And what your thoughts on how to do this. So that those businesses that are not a problem are not going to have the weight of the town come upon them for erroneous reasons.
Nor are ag businesses, nor are
State.
businesses that fall under the state statute. Let me get a few more comments, sir.
So what I'm just trying to understand, to back this up, this grandfather thing's great, right? We're talking about that, but to back it up, what the town is trying to pass is the right to be able to proactively go out and citate and close these, home businesses. Is that?
That's part of it.
That's part of it,
That's
right?
part of it,
Right.
yeah.
And I think there's a lot of passion in the room, right? I think there's a lot of people that have been here for a long time. I've raised my family in that 2-acre property. We've learned all about our agriculture business in that property. We're close to home. We're a family. We're there together, and we're all passionate about what we've invested. I think, for the most part, I think anybody in this room can say that we're not a nuisance to our neighbors. If anything, we're beneficial to all of our neighbors. My 80-year-old neighbor next door can't cut his trees. We cut his trees. We take care of him. We help him. Our neighbor across the street, the neighbors behind us. Everybody in our neighborhood loves us. I can understand, the companies that are treating this land, or these people that are treating this land as a used parking lot and renting out to, multiple, different people off the streets. But we're all people that live here, that love our land, and we're not abusing
So
our
how do we
land.
address those people?
Yeah, how do you address it? Well, they're
The ones that you just said, the ones that you said that are using it as a parking lot, and, how do we address
Not
that?
the property owners.
What?
Well, they wouldn't be the actual property owner. The renter wouldn't be the owner of the land.
He didn't say just renters, though.
Well, you just.
He's talking about the use of, I think he's talking about, perhaps people who have come here recently, in relatively recent years, and have changed the character use of the property from what was a traditional residential, to something different. That's what I think he was talking about. And I think, frankly, that's what the goal of everyone is to, be able to still have residential property. Hang on, ma'am.
Well,
You got another comment, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I have another comment. I want to say that you could have an agricultural exemption, and you could also have a business out of your residence. It doesn't have to be one and the same.
Right,
That's
So,
agreed,
are
absolutely.
you saying that because you have any other kind of business, it's illegal?
What they're saying is, if it's not either an ag classification, which is exempt, or the kind of business that's discussed in the Florida statutes, which is also exempt, then it would be subject to this policy. So those are very broad categories, and those categories between ag and the ones that are permitted by the statute probably cover most of what we're here talking about.
But what about if you don't own the property? It sounds to me, hearing what issues are people that don't care. The ones that live here and own here care. So wouldn't it be something that you're suggesting of somebody that rents it to store vehicles? Or, I don't know what it is really, but.
Yeah, we're
if
just trying to
there's-
understand who's the target.
Yeah, who?
Is it every
exactly.
one of us
Who is
that
the
are?
target? What
Is
is
it?
the
Are we
target?
all the target, or is there a direction you guys want to go with this?
All I can do is look at it as it's written, and as it's written, you have anything that's ag and anything that's under the statute that's permitted, and which is most home-based uses. That stuff is just not subject here. Yes, sir. And then I'll come to you. Go ahead.
Regarding the grandfather, I respect the board to keep in mind also, many of us who fought to become the town, that's a form of the grandfather that you also have to apply, because people existed living here, working here, before the town took over, and you talked about, well, just adopting some, well, the town adopted the people as they were, because we were the ones that decided not to become Weston or Davie or Pembroke Pines and become our own town. So I think you have to consider the date of whatever, and if it's before the town existed, you're gonna have to have some kind of whatever's in there to consider, okay?
Absolutely, I can agree with that. Yes, sir.
My name's Tony Cacavelli. I live in Rolling Oaks. And I can tell you firsthand that the town, they try to use the agriculture classification to justify someone that has an agricultural business. But back several years ago, my wife owns a piece of property, and we had ag on the property, and the Broward County property appraiser denied the ag for only a few months until we proved, and they did it to many people, I wasn't the only one, and they denied the ag, so the town ruled that we were in violation for building a building without a permit under an agricultural law, which the property was agriculturally being used for that purpose. And they railroaded my wife and gave her a $33,000 judgment against her name right now to this day, okay? And that's what I get for living here for 35 years. And we got our ag back. Since then, I have another property that's ag, and I don't see how y'all can make your rulings just based on ag, because a lot of these properties that are not 100% ag, they're residential and agricultural. Half the property might be residential and the people are running a business out of it, and the other half is agricultural, and they're running a nursery out of it or something like that. So I don't see how are you gonna decipher if next month Broward County property appraiser says, oh, we took away the ag on this parcel, how are you gonna justify running that business is right or illegal or not illegal? You know what I mean?
That's a great question. Go ahead.
Taking your example, as soon as you lose ag, for whatever reason, and I'm sure you were given notice prior to you losing it, that you were not in compliance. Anything that was built on there during ag is therefore illegal at that point, and you have two options. You either get an engineer to certify it as being under compliance of South Broward or South Florida Building Code, or tear it down. That's your options. Immediately, a lot of people make that mistake. They buy a nursery and it's got all these buildings on it and sheds and stuff that were built without code because they're allowed to. They don't go to renew the ag on there in a timely manner. They lose it, and therefore all those buildings are now illegal structures under Florida law. And it's not the town that's doing it, it's Florida law and Broward County ordinances. That building has two choices. You either get a certified engineer to certify that it was built to South Florida Building Code standards, or tear it down. And there's no other options.
Correct, I agree with you. Well, I took that option and hired an engineer, paid for the permits from the town of Southwest Ranches. Doug McKay had many hearings here with Doug and the whole council, and they said they'll wipe away all the fines as long as I go ahead and get the proper permits. I got everything within 6 months, everything approved, permitted, paid all the fees, everything. They wiped away all of the fines, which was like $20-something thousand, and they said, well, you didn't notify us for this period of time. I said, how did I not notify you when I bought the permits from you 4 months ago? Okay, this is a little backdoor deal with Doug and Keith, and you got $33,000 judgment against, or a lien on my property at that time. They couldn't collect on it. They garnished the wages and took several $1,000s out of my bank account. Keith did. Okay, I went to court. I spent thousands of dollars, hired an attorney. They gave me back my money within 3 days of retaining the attorney. They put all the money back in my bank account that they took out. and they transferred it from a lien on my property to a judgment against my wife's name. Why don't y'all explain that for me?
Well, I don't know if it's.
I know, we're not here to really talk about that. but
No,
I'm just telling you,
we're not.
on an ag situation,
Stay
that
focused.
a property that had all ag lost a portion of ag. That building was not sitting on that portion of property that lost ag. 6 months later, it retained ag and got ag back per the county. Now what? Now it's all ag, it's 100% ag. Here I am today, I don't have a problem with the town. What if next year, 5 or 10 years from now, they took away ag on a portion or something like that? It could be another problem.
Well, the state legislature at any time can do exactly what it did to all of the non-permitted barns in Southwest Ranches, and there was hundreds and hundreds of them at the time in 2013. One day, June 30th, it was legal. July 1st, they were all illegal. For 2 years we fought, and we finally figured out a way to make them legal until 2035.
So what happens after that time?
Then they're illegal again. Well, we figured that.
They base that on the useful life of the barns.
The
Because
useful life of the
by
barn.
that time, the barns,
So the town's gonna be proactive and site all them barns in 2036 or 2036? Is that what's gonna
That's
happen
correct,
then?
what's gonna happen.
yes, sir.
So I think there might be a little confusion about the impact to people that have an agricultural classification on their property. So I heard one example where they're running a family business, farm, agricultural. And to my understanding, but I'd rather Jeff explain if they have an ag classification, what they can't do and what they can do. I think you went partly into what they can do. If they've got some ancillary equipment to install landscape because they're installing their own material or what have you, it sounds to me like that's fine. But if give other examples that are not fine, because I know of a couple of nurseries that also rent out space to landscape maintenance companies that have nothing to do with their own business, but it's the fact that they're landscape maintenance companies,
Right.
as opposed to their own crews that go out and put the plants in the ground, the new mall that's being built in Pompano Beach.
Right, so the ag classification gives you certain protections based upon a bona fide agricultural use. Running a landscape maintenance business where the primary function is you have a fleet of trucks that go out and maintain lawns is not an agricultural use. That's a service use, and it's a commercial service use, but it's not a bona fide agricultural use. So that's just an example of something that's kind of tangential and related to the growing of trees and plants and installing plants, but it's a separate business, a separate aspect of business that's a service business that's really not a bona fide agricultural business. Another example is under the Right to Farm Act, agritourism is permitted. And agritourism is where you can have invite people to your agriculturally classified property and have them observe or engage in agricultural related activities. And to someone who hasn't really studied the issue, might be a kind of a blurry line as to what you can do and what you can't do. But the fact is, there are some bright lines. Like you can't build a structure that's explicitly, for the agritourism, right? Any structures on the property have to be ag structures. They have to be used only for ag. If you happen to involve those in your agritourism, okay. But you can't have purpose-built structures just for agritourism. And then there's just the extent. You can have just an example of how the line can get blurry. You could have a ceremony. You could marry somebody in your field, in your barn. But the barn can't be a wedding venue. And if you offer a catering service, and there's just nth degrees where you get beyond the agritourism that's allowed by statute. That's just another example of how an ag classification maybe what your business is really not ag, and it's going beyond what you're allowed to do under the statute.
Okay, you know, coming back, we talked about having a grandfather clause. And that's obviously something that is gonna have to be written. It's not gonna be written here as we sit here tonight. The question is, do we continue to address the other elements of this policy, aside from the grandfather clause, assuming, you know, there won't be any approval until we have the grandfather language to put in here. But do we address the other issues now? I think we should go ahead and address them.
Okay.
Well, absolutely.
I'd like to make a motion that Jeff take a look at some of the things that we talked about on grandfather clause and bring some work back to us at the next meeting.
So we have a motion with a second pending. The question is,
Okay.
do you want to, you know, make a friendly amendment to that motion?
I'll make a friendly amendment to that motion.
Not emotion, motion.
Second that motion.
The amendment being that Jeff is to look for some of the things we talked about on the grandfather clause and bring them back at the next meeting.
Do you accept
Some
that
language.
Yes.
friendly amendment? Okay. All right, very good. Let's address some of the other aspects of this to narrow what we have to talk about next. What's that?
We have to vote on it?
Not yet.
There's a motion?
Not yet. Right, we still have the motion with, as amended, and we're still in discussion. So let's go ahead and discuss the rest of what's before us as well. Additional comments on the remainder of this policy?
Yeah. I think 5 years is too long.
You're referring to section C?
Schedule compliance deadline. I think 5 years is too long.
Well, that's not the length of time for compliance. That's if a business has been in a location on a property for more than 5 years.
Oh, okay. 2 years.
The tenure,
Yeah,
right? 2
exactly,
years.
that's the tenure.
Okay, why did 2 years come up instead of just 1 year? Because I think any business can move in 1 year. Especially since we're not talking about plants in the ground or anything like that. We're talking about materials being moved, or trucks being moved.
Well, you have to find a place to.
Well, I think 2 years came up because of the, number one, either the amount of the investment or the duration that the business has been present. You know, so again, if you're coming to something that's been there substantially longer, you know, and is entrenched, it may not be reasonable to say be out in 1 year. That's
Well,
the point.
I'm just looking at it on some of this where the torture continues for 2 years.
Okay.
I think 1 year is more than generous considering our code right now is 30 days. Right now, if you're found guilty of it, you got 30 days to move, right now.
Okay.
That's what it is. After that, the fines start big time. And you become egregious, and that can go to $500 a day.
Noel, do you have comments on anything else in this policy other than do you think 2 years is too long? We'll come to you in a few minutes. Let us finish on the board side, and then we'll come back for public comment. Robert?
No, I'm okay with the 2 years, otherwise.
No, well, the rest of the, you have comments on the rest of the policy. Okay. Renee?
I just had a question in terms of what the amount for these violations were under this breakdown, the time for compliance. Is there a graphic?
Jeff?
Is that clear?
I can only tell you that if the business didn't comply within the time frame that the ordinance provides, and they're found in violation of this time frame, there's a daily fine that accrues, and
I think you're getting into code enforcement.
yeah, there's a daily fine that accrues.
Which is outside of
And that's
our,
listed by state statute.
yeah, and that's outside of our consideration.
See, the way it goes right now, okay, you get a courtesy violation, you're in violation. At 30 days, if you haven't resolved it, you get a notice of violation, which is then put on the magistrate's docket. At that point, the magistrate will probably give you 30 or 60 days to resolve the situation. At that point, you've now gone 4 months into the problem. You can get additional delays if the magistrate grants it. If you're trying to take care of it. If you're not trying to take care of it, then the fines start. And the only thing the town can do, because it's a civil violation, is give you a fine per day for each one of the violations. And in most cases, there's multiple violations on any property. So you could end up, at that point, come back to the magistrate and be considered an egregious violator, which would up it from $150 a day for most of them to $500 a day. And at that point, it'll go until such time as it's resolved one way or the other. Now, we have a lot of businesses in town that started before we were even a town. They're family businesses. They were the father and possibly the son were doing the business. And then they got more successful and they added more to that, to where they actually have a couple of places in town, manufacturing plants in town on their property. And people have said, you know, we're getting noise, we're getting odors of chemicals and everything else, and it's bothering us, just as I was saying about the plain paint chemical, which has a very large effervescence to it. So when someone makes a business and starts out small and then becomes so big that it's consuming the property and making the neighbors sick, or going beyond 7 o'clock because they've got a deadline for a product to get out, or having too many people come down the road and trucks coming and going all day, that's egregious. That is not a residential area, that's a commercial area. And those are the things that we've been looking at.
Let me pull it back in. So, gotten all the comments from the board. Let's open it up to the public. You've given comments on the grandfather clause. I'd like to get whatever comments you have on the rest of the policy that's being proposed. Other than even if you have on the grandfather clause and you want to add it now, feel free to do that as well. Anybody? Yes, sir.
I would like to know why the town is even considering or I know they're being proactive right now on small businesses in this town. And I can tell you firsthand that I know a lot of people that are like plumbers or electricians and, you know, have small businesses, and I'm not disputing what he's saying. Some of them have grown from a man and his son to a couple employees, but it seems like y'all are coming down so hard on all these small businesses. How do you expect these people to pay their bills or move forward? And I mean, do you think it's going to change the crime rate or anything else in this town? Because I mean, it seems like you're making this a real problem where it's like against the law to work here. I own over 200 something acres in 3 counties right now around here, and this is the worst town. This is the worst area, and I was born and raised right here, and this is the worst town. I'm ashamed to live here anymore. My wife wants to leave like tomorrow, but you know, all my business and a lot of my contacts, they're all in this area. I'm stuck here, honestly. And all these people right here are pretty much in the same boat. And you can say this ag thing, and yeah, a lot of us have nurseries or farms or cattle farms, whatever. But there's a lot of other guys that don't. And there's a lot of people that just like an electrician and his son, and they've been living here for 20, 30 years that I know of, and y'all are trying to push them out. Man, I don't feel it's right. And I don't know how they can pay their bills, how they can afford to get a warehouse. What's the problem with them having 2 vans in their backyard if they are the property owners and they're not having a nuisance? What's the problem with them building trailers or welding or sheet metal or fiberglass or whatever? I know a lot of businesses. I've lived here my whole life, but
If nobody's complaining,
yeah, I mean, even if 1 or 2 people are complaining, they've been doing it for 30 years, 20 years. I understand the grandfather thing.
What about the guy who hasn't been doing it 20 or 30 years? What about the guy who bought it 1.5 years ago?
You know, we're in America right now.
And decided that he was going to, what's that?
We're in America right now, and y'all are making it illegal to work.
Well, we're not making it illegal to do anything.
This town is.
Okay.
This town, I mean, you're making it basically illegal to work.
Make it illegal to want to have residential families live in residential neighborhoods?
Peace and quiet.
I mean, I understand you should have noise ordinance. I agree with you. You shouldn't have the guys working all night long or making noise.
Well, how can you agree with that? Because how can you agree with that after everything you just said? You should be defending that guy too, because that guy should have a right to work.
He's American.
It's America. You should be defending that guy.
You don't think he should have the right to work?
You should be defending the guy that you just said that he shouldn't be able to do it, the new guy.
I didn't say that.
What did you just say?
Everybody should be able to do that.
Okay, so anything goes, all right?
Noise ordinance. There should be some rules.
there should be some rules,
Yes, sir.
and we should.
How can you have any rules? Everybody should have the right to work.
Nope. The right to work and the right to work at 2 in the morning are 2 different things.
Okay.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
Says who?
Says, I mean, most of the residents here.
You speak for most of the residents here about what
Everybody's
hours
everybody
people
can
should be able
comment
to
on
work?
what they say. I'm just giving my public comment.
So everybody should be able to work as long as it's within the hours that you consider to be acceptable.
No, I'm saying like 7 to 7. If you had a small business out of your home, you're not running a public supermarket out of your house.
What about
or
somebody who
something.
needs to run 2 shifts in order to make a living?
It's a residential area. I think there should be parameters.
But what about that person?
You could.
They have a right to work. They have a right to make a living.
But if
Not
they're
at
not,
2 in the morning.
but if no
Why
one's,
not?
if the neighbors,
If no one's complaining, if nobody's complaining, why not?
Why are you going off on it like that? When
Why?
I'm
Because you
asking-
need to look at the other side. You know, you're going to sit here and lecture us about how everybody should have the right to work, but it's
Everybody
really
should.
everybody.
I
But it's
agree
really
with that.
everybody should have the right to work as long as it fits within the hours that are acceptable to you.
I would
and in
say
the
7 to 7
circumstances
is a fair hours. They can be adjusted
you.
or whatever.
To you.
Oh, to me, but I mean,
But
I
what?
don't feel an electrician,
Well,
a plumber, a landscaper needs to have the hours at 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning.
Okay, well, what about somebody who has to work who's not an electrician, plumber, or landscaper?
If he's driving a pickup truck and he's just leaving and going to the airport to work or something, I don't see a problem with that.
Okay, so
We could all
7
come and
to
go
7
on
to 7 doesn't
our
matter
pickup
then.
trucks all day.
24/7. 7 to 7 doesn't matter, right?
I'm not saying that. You're putting words in my mouth.
You know,
You're putting words in my mouth. I'm saying a working person.
I'm not
like an
putting
electrician.
words in your mouth. You know, you're sitting here arguing that a person can't make a living here.
The problem with this town is the more the
but now
proactive
you
y'all
want
are
to say
pushing.
a person can't make a living except in this circumstance.
reality,
And as long as it's
That's
acceptable
not
to
what
you.
I said.
That's
You're
exactly
construing
what
it
you're
to what
saying.
you want to hear.
That's not what I want to hear. That's what you're saying.
That's not what I said.
You just don't hear yourself saying it, but that's exactly what you're saying. Yes, ma'am.
You guys suggested 7 to 7. This is not an HOA. This is a residential area as well as communicative workspace for everyone that has been here for more than 30 years. Everyone does work every single day. It doesn't matter what job they have. I think you shouldn't be coming at someone at all for any reason. We've all been very subtle and social here, haven't we? You're kind of getting out of line right now.
So it should be anything.
It's kind of disrespectful.
this is a rural
Okay, so-
neighborhood
oh, I see.
that
It's
we all
one way.
bought
Okay,
into.
go ahead.
This is a rural neighborhood, and whether you came here 60 days ago or 60 years ago, we all came out here for one reason, because we want to be a part of either farming, we want to have our land, we want to have our space. And if we're not creating a nuisance to our neighbor, and we're, if anything, we're helping out our neighbors, why are we going to be, attacked for what we're doing if we're doing it, the right way?
Just a couple of comments. Some of the things I'm hearing are being suggested as remedies, solutions by the board tonight. For example, if you're not creating a nuisance, then the board's saying let's consider grandfathering those businesses. So, I mean, they're directly addressing that concern. Other things you're talking about are allowed. You know, people bringing home work vehicles to a point, home businesses. Some of the things you described are allowed, and it sounds like, I just want to keep things in bounds, right? Because, yeah, there's legitimate concerns, but some of the things you're talking about, the board's trying to address, or are just allowed anyway, and are outside the scope of this because they're home-based businesses.
I understand what you're saying, but if it's not a nuisance, then why does the town want to be proactive?
Exactly.
About it?
Period.
That's my question.
Yep. Exactly.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
Hi, my name is David. I own property on Southwest 50th Street.
So the fact that we're here to take, we're not here to make a policy.
Go right ahead. I'll sit down.
I'll be with you in just a second. We're not here to make a policy. We've been asked by the council to make a recommendation, and that's what we're here to do. And you want to come at us, as if we're the Gestapo?
I'm going to your secret meeting. That's all I'm going.
Then you're free to do it. But the fact that we want your input doesn't mean that we're here to answer every question on every grievance that you have or that you think you have.
If you wanted everybody's
we
input,
want
why
your
didn't you
input,
put
and
a
that's why
public
we're
notice
asking.
up? There is.
Sir, with all due respect, why are you getting so aggressive? That's the only thing I don't understand.
Okay.
I mean, we're here as neighbors, and
Right.
you're really coming at us like we're criminals.
Right.
You're talking down
I'm
to us.
not coming at anybody as
Sir,
criminals. I'm not
can I
talking-
speak? Just like
Go
I
right
let
ahead.
you speak, all right?
Go right ahead.
You talking to us, you talking down to us, and I don't appreciate that at all, all right?
If I spoke down to you, I apologize.
All right, well, I'll take your apology, but we're here as friends.
I'm not
and as
intending to
neighbors.
speak down to
But
you.
you talking down to us. Everybody knows here.
We're sitting
All right.
here. We are sitting here, and we are getting nothing. We're trying to.
So with
open
all due respect, you live here in Southwest Ranches?
Yes, I live here in Southwest Ranches.
Good. All right, so my parents moved here in 1979. My father died 4 years ago. All right, we have food, agriculture in our lot. All right, they took half of it away because they left it with the nursery, and then the other stuff in my business. They basically right now I'm paying $13,000 when I was paying $4,000. I'm fine with that. But please, come down and talk to us like men, and just relax. All right, we're not here to put you down or anything.
I would ask that you do the same.
All right, well, that's what I'm doing.
Because from up
but
here,
I felt threatened the way you talk.
because from up here,
everybody
it doesn't feel like you all
All
are
right.
just here to give ideas, which is
Sir,
what we're
I've
asking.
never been talked to the way you, maybe when I was in the military, that's it. But the way you talking to us, you talking down to us, like you're the God here. All right, I'm just saying. And I accept your apology, by the way.
Thank you.
The reality is this, it feels a bit gaslighting, with this whole grandfather situation to me. Because if you guys are proactively going out there and ruling on that, to go out there and crack down, what is this grandfather thing? What is it? It sounds like gaslighting.
Can I ask you a question? Is the premise that whether businesses, home businesses, are legal or illegal, and I'm asking this honestly, should continue to exist in Southwest Ranches? Because I've lived here 40 years. I've seen a lot of change before we were a town. So that's my question, because from how I see this and the grandfathering is to establish that those businesses that are operating illegally, which would benefit all of us, should not be operating in the town anymore. That's how I see it, so I need clarification, and I'm being honest, I'm not attacking you, to find out, do you think, therefore, that there's no need for any recommendation, and as long as a business hasn't been a nuisance, whether they're legal or illegal, the town should not take action on them from this point forward?
Yes.
Yes, what's the consensus? I'm curious.
I have a question for you, ma'am. Yeah, that's great what you just said.
I'm just asking.
I'm asking you a question. What do you consider an illegal business? The definition.
We'll ask our
What
counsel.
is
Our counsel is
illegal
going to tell
business?
you.
If you have licenses from Broward and the state, what is illegal?
Yep.
That's what we want to know. We have all the licenses, we have ag,
Is it
Broward
one-
County, state.
The
What
town
is
sites,
illegal?
that's an illegal
That,
business.
that's a fair question. That's a
Yeah,
fair question.
what is illegal?
When we say illegal business, we
Yeah.
mean it's a business that's a use that is not authorized in the zoning district. So all the residential areas of the town are zoned either rural or agriculture. And like I said, other than agriculture, not a whole lot of business. Other than agriculture and home-based businesses, that's it. That's what you can do in terms of business. So what we're talking about is businesses that are not allowed as a use in that zoning district, on that property in that zoning district. Not whether you have licenses from the state, because the state or the county or whoever is licensing you probably often doesn't care about your location, right? They care about your certification, your skills, your liability insurance, whatever it is that you can have your Broward County occupational license or a business tax receipt. All those things are fine, but we're talking about businesses that are not permitted uses under the town zoning.
So do you consider all the nurseries on Griffin Road as illegal businesses?
Why?
They're not operating out as a wholesale
They're
business.
They're not a residential dwelling.
I mean,
They're agriculture.
That's agriculture.
yeah, but those are retail nurseries. Those are not agriculture. Those are retail nurseries. Just because they have plants there, they're not a retail nursery.
That's something that's specifically allowed.
I'm sorry?
That is something that is specifically allowed.
Specifically allowed?
It is. It is.
Where do you buy the permit?
Seems that.
So, am I gonna get to talk, or I was waiting for you to come back? And I guess that's not gonna, the civility is not gonna happen, so. First, to go back to the grandfathering, I just wanted to maybe make a note, because I heard you guys talking about homesteading. Not everybody can get a homestead. So, to say that they're only gonna be grandfathered if they're homesteaded, sometimes Broward County will not accept a trust as a homestead, and sometimes if it's a secondary owned business, or if you happen to own more than one home, you can only homestead one of them. So I would just caution you, it's not a point of contention, it shouldn't be, but maybe make a note about that. Secondly, when we started, you said that nuisance businesses were subjective. I think you're 100% right. So my question is, who are the nuisance businesses, and why aren't we going after them with a specific code? An example would be if they're operating outside of the normal hours of operation, they're making noise, they have terrible smells. Why aren't you going after that low-hanging fruit? I think this net that you're casting is getting a lot of bycatch. And that's why there's so many people here today, including myself.
I agree with that. 100%.
Yes. Regarding some of the questions, I think some of the language in the memo with the whereas is purposely, from your legal standpoint, wide and open, but I feel the group here is saying that it needs to be a little bit more refined. And even you admitted you hadn't really researched and there's some things to it, so the board really has some more homework to assign you to really be able to answer some of the questions. You asked the question about the neighbors and so forth. I'm a neighbor of most of these people in here because I don't have a business, but I use them, okay? They provide the services, and I'm a good neighbor because I want the people that are my neighbors to give them the business before somebody is up there in Palm Beach or down Southwest Homestead to do stuff. I moved here in '94 and I built my house. I hired local people to do the work and people that live in the ranches. So, what's a good neighbor? It's the people that are helping you out, whether it's during the hurricane or just doing you a neighborly good deed. I've heard somebody do something about trimming somebody's tree because somebody was too old. The lady who lives next door to me, she's a widow woman and she's all around and about, and I mow her grass. I'm a good neighbor. I keep the code enforcement off her butt. We are that type of environment. We come by and we help each other and we're good to people. I don't know what's behind this. I don't know if I'm speaking for the group, but I'm going to put a little wide out there. I think people here are getting the impression that the town, through your board, is trying to put something out there to get rid of people to make them leave. Yep. Somebody else talked about here, it just costs an awful lot now to live here. if you haven't already, because you came to the meeting and didn't open up your mailbox, guess what you got from Marty in the thing? You're gonna find that your property taxes went up. Mine went up $908.29 over last year, which went up $750. The year before that, it was $650. You know, so I mean, it's going up exponentially. Where, as a retired person, I'm not going to be able to live here, and you know, the people moved here are living here because they can have some kind of business and pass it on to their legacy. So I don't understand why we're looking at some of these businesses, because I, as just a resident, I'm on the road. I live in Rolling Oaks, and I think that's one of the communities that's being targeted, because there are landscape companies, and I go up and down the road, and they're no bother. The people that come to work, they come in, they're in from 6:30 to 7, and then they're out by 7 to 7:30. Some are out as late as 8. I've not seen any accidents since '94. I haven't seen any school children run over, or horses, or anything by any of these lawn trucks coming or going. They don't come all over throughout the days and things, so I don't know where some of those comments about deliveries and stuff are coming and where that is coming from. I don't know if that needs to be clarified, but you know, I don't see that. And then a lot of them make a turn on 60th Street, which is an old narrow street already. So I don't know if that's a problem because there's somebody in the town that lives there, it's got a burp or you know what. But the only accident that I know of on that intersection is caused by a child operating an ATV that hit the guardrail and bent the guardrail, that nobody from the town or anywhere else has ever gotten that guardrail fixed. And it may be a narrow little spot with a narrow little road where those trucks are going on, but if that's truly a concern that this board is being looked to investigate and put in an ordinance that's gonna get rid of landscape businesses, that's the only one that we've determined is the lawn companies are the ones which is targeting the people. For at least my part of the Southwest Ranches would be off of Rolling Oaks off of 60th. I find it very curious because just a week ago, they approved what used to be Michael Riviera's property, which is a big, huge piece of property, sectioning off 10 acres into 5 2-acre tracts and allow all that traffic to pour out there on 60th Street,
Just so you
which
know,
is,
that's the Rivieras. They came in, they requested their property be subdivided, and they are gonna continue living there, just so you know.
Well, Mike has passed away.
The family is gonna live there, you watch. You'll see.
Okay.
well, either way, if it has to do with traffic and people and stuff, you're putting in 5 homes, they're gonna be, what, 3, 4 cars each? I mean, everybody around here probably has 3 or 4 cars at their houses and stuff. I go driving by my neighbors' houses on the golf cart, and I know there's not more, just 2 or 3 cars. So I don't know what's behind that, but it's not a good image, and that's why this room is packed. And, you know, I don't see where a lot of these people are even problematic. That's my opinion as not an owner of a business.
And so you understand, this board doesn't put into place ordinances. This board serves at the pleasure of the town council. And if the town council requests us to
That's why I
review language, that's what we
I don't
do.
know why
And-
it's behind this, and,
You know, so everything you're talking about, I mean, personally, me and probably most people here know nothing about.
I don't disagree. I think it's almost revenue generated that, hey, wait a second, somebody's saying, we get rid of all these so-called illegal businesses and make them move out of the neighborhood. Guess what? Now we'll get people to put in mega mansions and we'll get 3 and 4 times the taxation that we were before.
So I'd like to maybe help this gentleman. What's your name, sir?
Joe.
Joe. I live in Rolling Oaks too, right down the street from you. I'd like to clarify, what they're trying to do, in my eyes, is basically, you're on maybe a fixed income, retired or whatever, and I agree with you 100%, you're trying to, your taxes are going up, they're trying to run out your plumber, they're trying to run out your electrician, they're trying to run out your landscaper, so you're gonna be broke in no time, and you're gonna be ran out of here, okay? The problem right here is those two right there, Gary and Bob Hartman. Those are your personal rats in Rolling Oaks. If you don't know, there they are. I got the joy of being his
Bob
neighbor
Hartman, folks,
right next to him.
and he's being civil,
That's the worst neighbor in Southwest Ranches.
Well, he used to live down the street from
Yeah,
me,
well,
so.
he moved back.
Guys, please. Yes, sir.
Sir, what I see here is that everybody is against pro enforcement.
They want it.
I mean, everybody that I know in this town, they don't want that. The reason my dad moved here 35 years, 40 years ago is, I don't want to say the bad word, but he used to tell my mom all the time, the reason I moved to Southwest Ranches, so nobody will F-U-C-K with me. That's the reason we moved here. Then I went into the military for 30 years, came back, moved with my mom, because my dad passed away, and I see this town, it's so different than when I left. I used to come every year, but this is horrible. I help everybody. Everybody knows me.
Yep.
Most of the people
Good
know
man.
me here. I help everybody. Oh, clear the streets out there. I know with my Bobcat, I clear the street. Everybody knows me here. Everybody. All right? We just don't want pro enforcement. We don't want the intimidation of code enforcement coming by, taking pictures like some people have.
They already have pro enforcement.
I feel like a criminal. I feel like my dad being back in Cuba when he was a political risk. Come on, we don't need that. We don't need that. We are totally against it. We're good neighbors. Just because one neighbor wants to make it hard on other people, I don't agree with that. And on October 9th, when they have that big vote, I'm telling you right now, there's going to be over 1,000 people here. Because I'm going to let everybody know about pro code enforcement. Julio doesn't like it either, being honest with you.
Julio don't like doing his job because they make him, they push him to
So
properties.
that's my point of view,
Yeah.
and I hope you respect my point of view.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I haven't
just
said
wanna-
a name, I
wanna let
don't know
everybody else
against
talk.
anybody here.
I just want to let everyone else talk. So we have Bob, then we have, before you, the lady behind you. You'll be after Bob, and then you'll be next.
Thank you.
So just for a couple of minutes here, let me give you some of the other sides of the discussion you hear, because you're hearing a lot from one person who's clearly got grievances. And I don't know if I've ever met you. I never lived down the street from you. I'm in my house 31 years, so maybe we grew up in the same neighborhood and you recognize me or something along those lines, but I don't know you. In any case, we hear from everybody in town. There's a small group of people here tonight, and there'll never be 1,000 people here, Eddie. If you can get them all here, you got my respect, because let me tell you, excuse me, Eddie, I listened to you and interrupt once, get it.
Sorry, go ahead.
Now, here's the other side of the story. I got neighbors across, they just built a $13.9 million house across the street from me. The next door neighbor, he bought his house for 5.9. His first trip was to my house. Why do those people have horses? I don't like the smell of their horse poop. Should have did your homework. That's what we do here. Then he comes back, he puts another $2 million into his house. I don't like this, I don't like that. The answer is always the same to those people. This is who we are, okay? We're an ag community. We want to keep it this way. We do not want to throw those people out. When people are telling you we're seeking code enforcement, couldn't be further from the truth. Do you know there's only one municipality in the entire state of Florida that has the grace we have to have reactive code enforcement? Russell just went to a conference with all the town administrators and city administrators, and I asked him to do a survey. Who else does things like we do? Zero. In every other place. Now, they may not bother you unless a neighbor calls, but throughout the state of Florida, it's proactive code enforcement. We have 5 things that are proactive. Now, again, if your neighbors don't call, and that's the way it's always been here, but here's what's changing. Those people that call me to say, there's a company up on the corner now that bought the house, and they're parking 30 mulch trucks in the backyard. They're out of here at 4:30 in the morning because they're doing jobs in Palm Beach. Is that right for the neighbors that live around them? Probably not. But those are the calls we get. And I also heard this was a secret meeting. I told another neighbor who's here a few minutes ago, we've been talking about this on the dais for probably 3 months, on and off, 4 months? Oh, it's 4 months. Okay? Now, all that's on YouTube. We don't do this stuff in the secret. I can't talk to him about any town business unless it's like this. And I can't be talking to him one-on-one about town business. That's all illegal. But, you know, we don't break those laws because we go to jail. The bottom line is, we respect your opinions on all of this. And there's a bunch of people in this room I know a real long time, and I don't want to see damage to them as well. I love the idea of grandfathering. Now, how far do we go with that? That's the kinds of stuff that we need to be understanding from you all. And that was the purpose of this, to come up with some good ideas. How far could we take it? Will it end here tonight? No. They're not going to make a recommendation. We're going to be voting on their recommendation. These things take time. This is the way our town operates. A couple of people here, been here since before there was a town. How many towns are in Florida right now that the residents designed the town like we did? Not too many. I work for the second biggest developer in the United States. You know how much input those residents have? 0. You guys have a lot. You've had a lot. Some people are going to sit here and say no, because they only show up when they want to complain. But we listen. We're here to listen. The only reason there's 4 of us tonight is because the mayor is somewhere else out of town. He'd be here as well. We go to all these meetings. Why? We don't go to chat. We go to listen to what you guys have to say. We have 7 boards that we attend throughout the month on top of council meetings and other things to listen. So that's why we're here, guys. Now, I hate to sound, I hope you don't feel like I'm talking down to you. I'm just trying to talk the truth. We're here to listen. We hear it for a lot more people than what are in this room. I'll give you another example. So about 4 years ago, a veterinarian moves in, and there's somebody on Facebook who slaps me around on this on a weekly basis. The veterinarian moves in. Nobody said a word. Then he moves in a mobile vet clinic, all right, on wheels. Not legal, but nobody said a word. I didn't say, the guy's next door to me. I'm hearing car doors. He's delivering puppies at 3 o'clock in the morning, slamming right next door to my house. Didn't say a word. Now, his business is building, and this happens. Where is he at? Within a year, 40 cars an hour coming down my street to park on his property, so him and the 3 other vets in a mobile vet clinic can work on the dogs and cats. Now, you know when that starts? 6:30 in the morning, people would get in line to go through his gate. So now, I still didn't say a word, never called code. But now the neighbors around me, my neighbors, one sold their house. The 3 people across the street gave me the statistics on 40 cars an hour. Started giving me all the details on this guy because it was a problem. So I reported to code. Now here's why people don't want to report the bad players to code. My truck was vandalized to the tune of $7,000. Can't say who, didn't have surveillance cameras back then. But I paid the price for trying to help out my neighbors. So then, you know what happens? You start screwing with me, you're gonna get it right back. We shut the guy down because he was a really bad player. He had oxygen tanks in his front yard. Is that what you want as your next door neighbor? We didn't think so either. So we don't go after the plumber. Anybody who thinks we're going after the plumber, anybody who thinks we're going after the plumber, the landscaper, the this, the that. You heard Jeff. If they're legal businesses, we can't do a thing to them. And
That's a lie. I've got over 15 violations. 100%
Tony,
agricultural property.
You're this way with everybody.
You're
You
right.
know what? You argue your face off, and you stand there and tell everybody you're right and everybody else is wrong.
I've had over
and
15
you ignore code
violations
enforcement's
years ago.
violations.
Years
you know
ago.
what happens? You end up with $15,000.
Gary is my
Guys,
wonderful neighbor.
guys, let me hear from a few other
So
people.
I just want to let you know.
You're telling lies. That's all you're telling. Just sit
There
down
you
and
go.
save your breath.
Thank you. Sit down and save my breath. I'm not telling lies, folks. I've been elected to this office twice
Ma'am?
because I served the community.
Okay.
And honestly,
Bob.
hush. 1 second. Okay. 1 second. Sorry. I thought it was him again. Sorry. In any case, if you want to discuss, my phone number's everywhere. I'll give it to you right here, right
You
now.
and Gary are
Excuse me.
liars.
Guys.
Hey,
You're
where's
cowards
Eddie?
that won't
Where's
tell
Eddie?
you rat
Where's
people
Eddie?
out.
Do me a
Let's hear
favor.
from,
If
guys,
you
please,
overreact again, ask him to leave.
guys,
Thank you.
please, wait, no, hold on. Let's go to.
Just hold on, 1 second. If you want to discuss this, give me a call. 954-801-1758. It's in every one of the newsletters. Sit there and laugh.
I mean, there's definitely needs to be rules and regulations in our towns, right?
I agree.
100%.
Yeah.
But a lot of us are small guys. Oh, can I
No,
finish?
I want. They've been waiting.
I have a hard time with my train of thought, so I just
He's getting old.
you know. Listen, a lot of us are. I mean, there needs to be rules and regulations. Having 40 trucks and cars in and out all day, that's a nuisance, right?
Yeah.
100%.
100%.
But I'm a small business. I get up every morning and walk my 2 daughters to the bus stop. I'm able to come back, work in my office. When they get home from school, I'm able to go there, pick them up from the bus stop, spend that quality time with them out of my small business, my small agriculture business, out of my home. So I just want you guys to have compassion for people that came here for a reason, right? Just like the guy that wants to build his $15 million house and build and fucking have tennis courts, pardon my French, and lights on all night long. Well, you know what? We don't bother him. He's out there having a good time. We're here for a reason. We're not creating a nuisance. Nobody's complaining on us, you know. And
Leave us alone.
leave the guys that are not creating a nuisance alone.
Ma'am, did you want to speak?
Yes, as a third generation in this city, I think it's really crazy how people are just coming at each other so quickly, even as a council member. And I really hope this doesn't turn into an HOA, as you guys are making it. And I hope that the mayor will be at the next town council meeting.
Yeah,
I know he's
here.
listening to all of this, so I'm really appreciating that and hearing everyone's perspective on this. I just want to know if he's going to be at the next council meeting regarding this, and we can all speak about it with him.
Sir?
Yeah, can I just jump in there for a second?
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I just want everybody to know that I am listening to this. I do apologize that I'm not there. I had this event that I needed to be at, and it was scheduled long before I knew that this was going to be on the agenda. If I could be there, I would definitely be there. I do apologize that I'm not there. I wish I could be there, but I am listening to what everybody is saying. I'm hearing what you're saying. I've heard about the grandfather. I think that's an awesome idea. I definitely think that's something we need to pursue. I want to say that I appreciate very much the board being there and kind of being on the front line. It's not easy to do, and so thank you to you all. But I want the residents, that are there. I wish I was looking into your eyes as I say this, but I want you to know that we're not, there's nothing like money-wise or anything like that that's going on here. That's not what this is about. This is about the peace and quiet that some residents are not able to enjoy on their property because there are certain businesses that are going on that are disruptive. It may be that it starts very early, it may be that it's loud, it may be that there's a lot of vehicles coming and going, there may be a lot of people that are coming and trashing the yards. It's different situations with different properties all over the town. And we have, worked generally through the years. Through this ordinance, we're not making anything new that's illegal or illegal. Nothing has been changed as far as that's concerned. But what we're having is certain situations where residents, frankly, are afraid to report. They're afraid of physical violence, similar to what Bob described. They're afraid to report it, and we hear about it as council members because we're here to represent the public, and so we hear about it, and but they don't want to report. They just want it solved, and so that's happening more and more as we grow as a community, and so we're looking for a way to resolve that. Clearly, absolutely, I've heard loud and clear tonight that there are, and I knew this beforehand, and it's why we wanted to go to this workshop to be able to hear it, because we needed to hear both sides. We had a workshop that was advertised, and we tried to promote it as much as we could, and it's like 180 degrees versus what we're hearing tonight, because it was all residents that came out that night. I think Eddie was the only one there, and Eddie, I appreciate that you came to it, so you can speak to this, but it was basically all residents that were fed up with businesses that were next to them, but they were afraid to report them. And now, in this meeting here, we're kind of hearing the other side of businesses that, frankly, for the most part, are running good businesses that have been here a long time, that have been fantastic neighbors to their neighbors, and I know, the Todds, I know the Lesters, I know Eddie, I know, we have tons of people that are quality people that look out for their neighbors, that are caring about their neighbors, and I can tell you that as a council, I speak for myself, but I think it's true for the council, that we don't want to do anything to disrupt that. And the initial thought was, this needs to be proactive, because we heard strictly from residents that were fed up, that had to move because to avoid, to kind of find a lifestyle again. And now we're hearing the other side, which is awesome. We need to hear both sides. And so this has been great. I think we've got some good positive ideas on how we can do this, but we're not going to do anything. I can tell you this commitment as the mayor, and I suspect the rest of the council feels the same way. I can't speak for them, but I suspect I feel the same way. That we're not going to do anything until we feel comfortable that we have found that middle ground that makes sense and that protects those people and those businesses that have been here for a long time and that are good neighbors, that are quality individuals that are here to help and have, as I said the other night at the council meeting, that are part of the fabric of who we are as a town. And we can't do anything that would disrupt that. That would go against everything that we believe in. So we've heard the challenge tonight. I know I have, and I'm sure the rest of the council has. We've heard the challenge that what we've got today is not right. It needs work. It needs a lot more work. Thank you to you all for coming out, and thank you for the board for being on the front line for us. We really appreciate that, and there's still a lot of work to be done. And I will be at the next council meeting. I don't have another trip for a long time, so I'll be around. My apologies one last time for not being there tonight. I would love to be there. I wish I was there, but I just couldn't be tonight. And so I want you to know that we're going to approach this as a town, as a community, and we're going to protect those folks. I'm committed to protecting those folks. I suspect the rest of the council is just as committed to protecting those folks that are doing the right things and are in our communities, helping their neighbors and not doing things to disrupt their neighbors. So I'll stop there. But I just want you to know that I appreciate you coming out. I've heard what you have to say, and we've got a lot more work to do to take this in and to modify it and make it right.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Did you?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to comment that the reason you got a lot of people here today is because of the fact that this is the way it's worded is proactive, and we've always been reactive over here in the ranches. I came over here because I left Pembroke Pines to do the HOA association before it was a town, and I've seen the changes that the town has taken. I hardly ever come to the meetings because what really unfurled my feathers was the fact that the town is becoming proactive And you're telling us now, for example, I heard you say that you had residents that had to move because you're not proactive. I find that ridiculous. If a resident has an issue, you report it to code enforcement. If it's a legit issue, it's reactive, and then you follow through. You're casting a big net with this proactive wording on this. And that's why you got so many people out here and upset and hitting at their heartstrings. And as the other gentleman mentioned here, there's some people that are an electrician, and he brings his work truck home. He's not running a business out of his house. He's bringing his work truck home. Otherwise, he's got to get a warehouse or somewhere to park his truck, or a city lot a lot like Pembroke Pines has, where you got to pay to park a vehicle or park your trailer, meaning your camper or RV. I find that ridiculous. That's not what we moved out here for. That's my comment.
Well, see, that's a great example, so I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a legal business. That individual has nothing to worry about. That is a legal business. There's nothing illegal about that. That's a bona fide home business. And so when you throw out that sort of an example, and I get it. You know, it's not clear 100% what it is. What I'm saying is that's not a proper example of what would be this law would be applied to, because that's a legal business. And I'm, you know, like I said, you haven't heard of it, but I can guarantee, I certainly have heard of it, and I'm sure the other council members have heard of it, that I can rattle off, you know, several individuals that have specifically moved out of this town because they were afraid to, number one, they were afraid of what the repercussions would be if they brought code involved, because they would, whoever the business that they would be reporting would know it was them. And number two, they just didn't want to put up with it anymore. They moved out here for a quiet, peaceful living, and rather than deal with all that, they moved. And it happens. That's not a wild, and I'm glad that seems outrageous to you, and that maybe you don't believe me when I say it, because it shows how radical it is. But let me tell you, it happens, and it's not a rare occurrence.
Thank you.
You mean to tell me that the person that moved out of here didn't reach out to code enforcement or the city to make it reactive?
They were afraid to.
They were afraid to.
They were afraid to. They were afraid to.
They were afraid.
And just like, you know, I have to just do a shout out. I appreciate Bob sharing his situation, because those are the kinds of things that happen when you reach out in some situations with individuals who are not good players. Okay? You know, it cost him $7,000 for something just to try and resolve the situation, not to mention the aggravation and everything else associated with it. And there's someone else, I won't call him out, but there's someone else in that room that I know cost them thousands of dollars for damage to their vehicle. And so this is the stuff, yeah, people are afraid, they don't want to, they moved out here for exactly what you all have talked about in this meeting, to live and be left alone. And when that is disrupted because of an illegal business and the way they're doing it, and for the disrespect in some situations, that room right now, which unfortunately I'm not there, is packed with a lot of people that have tremendous respect for their neighbors and treat them right and treat them like family. And they have an illegal business, but they treat their neighbors like family, and there's no complaints about those people. And so we have to find a way that those people can operate their business and feel comfortable that there's not, Big Brother looking over their shoulder. But we still have a way to protect the individuals that are afraid to report it, and frankly would rather move away than to put up with the aggravation over it and rein in those types of businesses. And that's the needle we're trying to thread. And like I said before, where we're at right now is not where we need to be. You all have done a great job, and I sincerely appreciate it. You've done a great job of pointing out that we need more work to do here. But it is a problem. It's not something that we can just sweep under the rug, because it is affecting the lives, not of you all who are in the room there, but for the individuals that came to the actual workshop that we had about, 2 or 3 months ago. So, yeah. So that's why we're having the conversation. Nothing financial, nothing tax-wise. You know, we're doing fantastic financially. That's not what it's about. It's about people being able to have a peaceful enjoyment of their property.
Well,
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, the fact that I mentioned again was that you're casting a big wide net with this proactive code thing. And all of us that came out here to the ranches before we were a city came out here because we were a reactive code. And a lot of people are going to get swallowed up just in the wording on this thing, as well as the poor electrician who doesn't even have his business out of his property, but he's just bringing his work truck home and leaving in the morning and coming home at the end of the day or coming home for lunch.
You're allowed to have 2 trucks.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
did you
know-
hear what I just said? That's
Yeah.
a legal business.
Oh, that's a legal business,
It does
okay.
not affect them. This wide net, which I agree, it is a wide net, but that wide net does not cover that business. That business is fine.
As far as I knew in the past, they could have 1 or 2 trucks, and as long as it's out of sight.
I don't even think it has to be out of sight.
You're allowed 2. You can park it in your driveway.
Yeah.
Yeah, still, that's still, this change does not do, that's still fine. That's fine. It was fine yesterday, it'll be fine tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
There's a lot of good neighbors in Southwest Ranches. I know at least 70% of them. There's a lot of good people here, all right, including Bob. I've had my disagreements with Bob, but I've always respected him, and he respects me. I've never had a problem with him, honestly, to be honest with you. But neighbors helping each other, that's what it's all about here. And when you call a neighbor and you ask him to help out, and he's there for you, which most of the people that I know here, they're that way. That's what I want to see here. I don't want to see no pro enforcement.
I think that's what we all want to see.
No pro enforcement, code enforcement, none of that stuff. That scares a lot of people here. They just don't want that. That's harassment in my book. And I see the point of some people here, you know, but like I said, it's neighbors helping each other. And everybody in this room right here, I know personally, and they help. You call them and they're there, all right? And I do the same, and everybody says that about me because that's the way I am. And everybody here does the same. So I just wanted to say that, okay?
David, you want to add something?
All right, folks. Hey, David Kaczynski, I'm a council member here in Sunshine Ranches. A couple of things that kind of created this big problem. Back when town was founded, I moved out here in '97. We were able to make anonymous code complaints.
Right.
And I made a lot of them when I was HOA president. I made a lot. Folks in Tallahassee took that away from us. They said everything has to be reported. And when you report to code enforcement, you have to put your name on there.
Oh.
Then there is this sunshine law in Florida, public records law, very broad public records law, that if somebody gets that code complaint against them, they call up code and say, who reported me?
Right.
They are required to tell them the name of the person that reported. That's where the retribution comes in. Now, the way this is written, I think it's broad, way too broad for my vote for proactive. I think it needs to be narrowly, far more narrowed down. I do support grandfathering. We've had people come here in meetings, and believe it or not, I'm still shocked to this day. Twice, a gentleman comes here saying, you need to ban the roosters from the houses because they wake me up in the morning. All right? I'm going to tell you that's bullshit. Okay? That's bullshit because that's part of the town. Now, I think that if somebody is running a business in a home or in a place you drive past, it doesn't even look like a business, I don't think that person should be addressed at all. They're quiet. There's no traffic going in, no customers going in, no large amount of trucks going in and out, no lighting, no odors, no noise. Those people need to be left alone. If you're
So you got to put that in writing. That's
right,
the thing.
right. That's
It's
the
too
whole
broad
purpose
what
of
this
this.
is.
You know, I was thinking exactly what you
Because
just
you
said.
leave,
Exactly. what you
another
just said.
councilman comes in,
we.
And it's in writing, so
Correct.
broad.
The
You know,
impact
goes
I
to
see.
hell.
You know what?
I was not aware that.
Can I finish?
Yeah.
I've been waiting
If
patiently
you
all
must,
meeting.
if you must.
All right. I think that the triggering element must be what I've heard from everybody is the impact of these businesses on the residents that are nearby. If the people are complaining, and like Steve brought up, they were complaining, just complaints, that becomes a problem for us. Bob talking about the 40 cars down the street. That's a problem. It has to be addressed. We can't sit there and allow this abuse. I take that as abuse of the system. All right. Now, I put through that I addressed the amendment to the code that requires 5 votes for proactive because I wanted our freedom. But I agree with some of the things with this, but not all of it. And I think the trigger should be impact, whether the business has indoor, outdoor activities, vehicles, maximum number of vehicles, maximum number of vehicles parked overnight, that's a big problem. Vehicles that are not registered to the property, that's a problem, and that needs to be addressed. No staging of vehicles on the properties. There's a lot of issues that I have here, but these are issues that we have to address. And then I rest my case at this point.
No.
Mr. Trubisky.
Yeah, wait, hang on, go ahead.
Motion to extend the meeting for 30 minutes.
Yeah, we need to do that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Go ahead. Where were we?
Mr. Trubisky, you mentioned about vehicles on the property that are not registered to the homestead. There's people that are homestead that work for a company and bring that work vehicle home.
They're allowed.
They're allowed.
Okay. And it's not, obviously the work vehicle is registered to the
It's like
company
when you
somewhere
got
else.
people that are renting their property out just to park a vehicle on the property, so they can come in, take that vehicle out and leave.
Yeah,
That's
different.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
David, could you explain the policy? I haven't had a code violation in probably at least a year and a half.
Good.
So I'm doing great. But I changed my way of doing things a little bit. But the last 5 I had, they won't give me the name. They won't give me the name of who it is. What's the policy of the town of Southwest Ranches? They're supposed to give you the name of the complainant. I know who the complainant is.
Great point.
And we're gonna have to
Call
change
code.
things.
We call code. The law right now,
I
I
have
don't know
him
when
stand
those,
there in front of me, and he said, "You know who called?" He won't give me the name.
they can't do that. Now, how long ago
Well, he
was
did
it?
it. So he did it. So where do
How
we
long
go
ago
from
was
here?
this? How long?
About a year and a half.
See that, this has been in.
Oh, I had to change my whole entire swale that's been there before I even owned the property to address the situation with the complaint. I had to do
Let's
thousands of dollars in
Let's
work.
talk. Let's talk.
Yeah, we'll
Let's-
talk.
I don't, they're supposed to release that name.
Yeah, exactly. And so what if they don't?
I mean, we have people here that hold parties for profit,
I get it.
all right? I don't like that.
I don't agree with it either.
Thank you. So there is
There's
some things
also,
that we need to
we have a
regulate.
neighbor across the street that's got fined like over $10,000. He's had 3 parties, and he's right across from Gary. And Gary took all the pictures of them all, and he paid for a permit, and he got fined, and it's just, man, they're treating people bad. It was a birthday party for a kid, and I was there, and there was probably 40, 50 people there. I'm not gonna lie.
My neighbor,
But I don't feel it's
Zito,
right.
my neighbor
You got
Zito,
invited? I didn't
John
get
Zito,
invited.
he's got a legacy business that was here way before I knew. And he's passing it on to his son.
All right, guys,
I want him to
let's
protect
just have one
I'm
person.
just saying
Let's have just one person talking at a time.
I'm just saying in regards to disclosing the name of the complainant.
That's state law.
Who do we talk, state law, so
Come.
me, you, and Julio could sit down and
Sure.
I want it on paper who called every
Sure.
time.
100%.
And I'm gonna hold them accountable.
Did you have another comment, Eddie?
Yeah, I just want somebody to explain to me what is this Florida Sunshine Law means, because I have a few questions of some of the things that I know that happened, and I just want to, if somebody, an attorney, maybe David can tell me exactly what the Florida State Sunshine Law means. What is it? behind
Let's
that.
talk, we'll talk.
Yeah, please, I just want to know for sure.
All right.
You know, what
It means
that
you can't hide behind the name, if you gotta come forward and disclose your name to make a formal complaint, but the town's not doing
I'll
that.
call you tomorrow and we'll talk about that.
Okay, let me ask you, do we have any additional points to bring out that we haven't already talked about relating to this policy? Yes, sir.
Well, it's not to the policy, but I
Oh, no,
just.
wait, hold on, it's following the guy behind you.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
I was headed to the.
Sorry.
In the beginning of the meeting, some key words kept being cast out. Landscape, lawn maintenance, trucks, commercial trucks coming down the road all day, but nobody's defined quantity. Nobody's defined quantity per acre. Nobody's defined equipment, bobcats, front-end loaders. So, again, even though you're saying ag is good, you need to define all of this.
Sure.
And I don't think we're at a position tonight for you to move on.
We're not, we're not.
Okay, I think there's a lot of homework that has to be done. And,
Absolutely.
and I think, I'm not sure about this previous workshop, or whatever, but I think you need input from the people that are actually doing the work in the town also. People like Eddie, you could probably use him as a point of contact, and he could probably invite some of us to any future meetings or workshops, so you get our input. This is the first time I heard about this meeting. I actually heard about something last week, and it was kind of sketchy, and then I heard, no, it's not happening, it's next week. And then I got the information that it was this week. So I had no idea this was even going on. Last time I heard there was an issue was a couple years ago, and I attended that council meeting, and I spoke, and the town council all agreed that code enforcement would not be proactive, would be reactive. And now, this resolution, I'm looking at the amendment, the language is proactive. So you guys already voted on this.
Mm-mm.
You know, last time we spoke about this.
I have not voted on this at
Yeah,
all.
no, not this particular one. I'm talking a couple of years ago, I don't remember the date, when we had this meeting about proactive
There
and
was,
reactive.
there was a discussion, and I don't remember the context about.
It was supposed to be everything going proactive, and it was brought up.
It was not done.
And said no.
Right, so, but now your language is showing proactive, which is the opposite of what the council
There's
has
been a lot of
agreed on.
proactive code enforcement going on.
It may be happening, but that's not what the council agreed
Correct,
to.
correct.
I was here, and I spoke, and I remember that evening.
Go ahead.
To this gentleman's point about, there's been a lot of, on the topic of with the trucks and the movement and all that stuff. And I don't want to stir the pot and upset anybody else that may be in a different business than I'm in, but, I just want to understand what the rules and regulations are for the retail nurseries that are on Griffin Road all the way up and down, right? I mean, I thought if it's agriculture, it was used for wholesale, purposes or for moving your product. But, I mean, how does that work when you have, 50, 75, 100 cars moving in and out of your agriculture land, but it's really a retail land? How does that, what's the difference between that or 2-3 trucks moving, off your street in the morning and coming back at 5 o'clock in the afternoon? So I just trying to understand the law on that.
Hang on, Newell. Jeff, did you want to jump in on that at all?
Yeah, just briefly,
And then we'll come back.
this was something, when I said specific before, it's because there was a specific ordinance that actually addressed this. On Griffin Road and with the major arterials on the perimeter of the town.
Dykes and Sheridan.
Sheridan, I'm not sure about Dykes off the top of my head, but yeah, Dykes is included as well. Flamingo. Retail nurseries are permitted. So the types of things we're talking about properties that are interior to the town that have these type of businesses that are putting this kind of vehicle load on local streets. We're not talking about Griffin Road and Flamingo and Sheridan and that type of thing.
How could you give someone a special exemption to have a property on this road? They could do this, but on that road, you can't do that.
Right. Because it actually makes a lot of sense. If you are on an arterial road and you're not bringing lots of traffic onto a residential neighborhood street.
I mean,
you're
I
not creating
understand,
an
but without
impact.
vehicle counts or surveys, how do you, is 178th Avenue an arterial road? Is
No.
172nd an
No.
arterial road? So
No.
it's only Sheridan, Dykes, and Griffin?
Yeah,
And
172nd is actually, I think, is on the
We
that
move our
list.
business to
Yeah.
one of those major roads.
Then you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, but the idea being that, you know, if the business is on a local street, it's not on a through street, that carries significant traffic to begin with, but it's a street where, you know, residential driveways are accessing off that street and that's all. That's the rationale for having
Those
them.
are on residential streets also. I mean, you go to a Perfect Choice Nursery, you
Well,
gotta
listen,
turn down.
I don't want to relitigate the whole,
Well, I just wanna
whole ordinance,
understand
but I'm
it.
just explaining
Yeah.
to you that when your business, when your retail nursery is on one of these major roads, access is exclusively that major road, it's allowed.
So all the properties on Dykes Road would be allowed?
Correct.
Perfect.
And that's in writing?
Yes.
Where
I'm
do you-
happy to, if you give me
Can I
an
get a
email
copy?
address afterwards, I'll email it.
I would like it. I would like to understand it.
Sure.
Yeah, By it's the not way, just all a this writing, is that's online. actually an ordinance. The town's laws aren't a secret either, they're all online.
Oh, I mean, it's hard to find these things,
No, no.
and that's why I'm here
If
to
he's-
understand it.
If he's volunteering, I'd go that route too.
Yeah, I'd like to understand it.
But you can do the research.
Do we have any further comments or input that should be taken into account? And to address the gentleman's point, we're not moving forward on anything. The whole point is to collect the information. That's why, from the beginning, when we talked about doing a grandfather clause, there was no way we were gonna go forward. But since everybody's here, we wanna get the comments, so that next time we sit down, you know, hopefully comments have been taken into account in what we see in front of us next time. And
Withdraw the motion, right?
yeah, we're just gonna have to table it because, you know, it needs to be revised. You know, based on the amendment, it has to be revised, so.
So,
Do we have any further, yeah, go ahead, sure.
so what's gonna happen October 9th? Because everybody's asking me about that. There's a lot of people that call me on the phone and say, October 9th, I know 5 council people are gonna vote yes on this, and everybody's nervous. Because October 9th, something about October 9th that I don't know about. Can somebody explain to
Isn't that
me?
when we, I think we tabled the
Yeah.
next discussion on this to that date?
But is that
From the
gonna be a
last
vote
meeting.
October 9th, or? I mean, because that's.
Here's what I'll tell you for sure.
Yeah.
We will be discussing it, whether we vote
Okay.
on it or not.
Okay.
If
All
we're
right.
all comfortable that it's where it needs to
All
be,
right.
we'll be voting on it.
Okay.
If not, we'll be
Yeah.
discussing
Well,
it
you
there.
know,
Hold on. I would recommend you come to this meeting next month as well, because what they're saying right now is,
Yeah.
this is gonna be a discussion point next month. So if you wanna provide input, this is the place to be.
Now, Jeff, one of the things that I think needs to happen is I think in these whereas clauses, it needs to be much more specific than just allowed by Florida statutes or an agricultural business. I think if we can spell out in there in some detail what kinds of businesses are not subject to this, and maybe have another whereas that would help define businesses that are subject to this, I think that would probably get us further along, just because we can objectively look at it and say, okay, the electrician, it doesn't apply to him, you know, this company, it doesn't apply to that type of business. Even though we think it's clear in the statute, it needs to be stated, I think, in this resolution. Yeah.
Right, so I live in Deems Ranches, and it's pretty quiet, suburban-ish kind of in there, right? You do have some horses though. So there was a guy that had a business with a fleet of trucks, and he recently sold and he's gone. The problem's gone. But my point is that every morning a bunch of workers would drive their vehicles in, they would get into his vehicles, they would drive out, go to work, and come back, right? They were tearing up the road. The roads in Deems Ranches are owned by the homeowners, so the wear and tear on my street, literally my street, right, half of in front of my house, he was causing damage. It was costing me money, right? And if it was like 49th Street is town's road, it's costing the town's money. So it does affect other residents in other ways besides just noise and inconvenience and smells. It's financially hurting us too, to have our roads repaired. And by the way, I love the passion. There are 7 advisory boards. I don't know most of you. You should come, and if you're this passionate about our town and you want to be good neighbors and you want to volunteer and you want to have a say in our town, join one of the advisory boards. This is one of 7. And that's it. Join this one.
Following that, also, we are all volunteers that serve on this board. So we are appointed, we're volunteers, we don't
Appointed
get
by the
paid.
council.
By the council, we don't get paid. We don't have final say on anything. We are given information like this to review. And we meet the third Wednesday of each month, as was said, and each time you can come. This was on our agenda. We tell what's on the agenda. It is not a secret. And we would like you to come, even if it's not an issue that's as important as this is to you, because we're the ones that are recommending to the town council whether they should accept it or not. And so some of them we throw out. We don't feel that they are appropriate. Not everyone gets past this one, but we only get your feedback by your being here. So please come, not just if it's something you're passionate about, or wait till after the fact and say, why are they even talking about this? Where did this come from? It could have originated here.
In fact, we usually meet in the conference room because nobody's
Nobody's
interested to participate in what we talk about.
It sure
So-
seems like there's a lot more feedback from the people that are fighting for their rights than the ones that are complaining, so.
Has this town ever considered having like a special board like this for like a special taxation, for like a commercial tax? Like, let's just say all these retail businesses that have this special permit or whatever you call it to function the way that they do. Because the way I look at it, there's really no tax base in this town. The tax base of this town is off of code. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
No. You're
But
right.
I don't really
You're
understand
absolutely
though.
right.
That's what I thought it was.
All right,
There's a
well,
budget from which the tax base comes from.
from which the tax base comes from, but
Okay.
they don't have their own income from like commercial property.
Folks,
'Cause
we
there
have
is-
the third
I'm
lowest
talking, I
taxes in
thought we
Broward
get
County. I'm
time
gonna
to
talk
talk.
over you, 'cause you did me that favor before. We have the third lowest taxes in Broward County. Our property values going up and new people moving in is what's
Taxes are
fueling,
going up too, Bob.
fueling the increases in our budget. We've got, when I moved here, we had no budget. Our budget now is close to $30 million. Now, what does that pay for? Davie Fire and Police. It pays for garbage, and it pays for the town here.
This town don't
We're
know
not raising, we haven't raised our taxes, our ad valorem taxes on your property in the 6 years I've been on the council, okay? I fight that. The only thing we have to raise, Davie is on a contract, Waste Management is on a contract.
I'm not complaining about that.
You're
non-ad
saying
valorem
the
taxes.
town only makes its money off of code enforcement.
The town makes
Pardon me.
hundreds of
Not even
thousands of
close.
dollars a year off of code enforcement.
this
That's
is
a
why-
fact.
You know,
Be careful who
you
you
know,
listen to.
even whether it's true
Yeah.
or not,
Yeah.
well, whether it's true or not, though, the point isn't an unreasonable point, which
worth
is,
discussing.
could the town look at some kind of business
Retail
tax?
properties
Yeah.
paying a higher tax.
Yeah, regardless
Why not?
of the
Why
other
wouldn't
issue, right?
the town want to collect it? You want to do
Yeah,
a,
so we,
listen, you,
just so you know, we don't have any ability to address it
But
as
in that,
the comp plan.
I understand this special board though, but hear me out for 1 minute. If this special board is trying to throw out a guy that has like say an air conditioning business and you find it to be an illegal business, if I had my way, they'd all be legal businesses. But let's just say y'all find it to be an illegal business. He at least would have an option. Maybe he could buy a piece of property on Dykes Road or Griffin Road, pay a little more money in taxes that would go to the town to help the town out. You can't run a real city with no money. You can't run Davie. That's why we're hiring Davie. That's why we're paying the police, we're paying the fire. I totally get it. So why not raise the taxes where they need to be raised? You're trying to throw out all the illegal businesses, give them some options. You know, a lot of people are legal, some people are illegal. I don't see how, when I was going through all that problem and they put that big $30-something thousand lien on my property, they fined over, I think, $230,000 that year. I still have it at my house right now, printed out. That's just in code enforcement, okay? I don't know what it is this year. I have nothing, but I would be willing to bet it's upward of 100 or 200,000. I'll be willing to bet anything.
Yeah, but I think
Okay?
Bob. I
So,
think Bob's
don't say
point
it's
is-
not a money generator. It's
No,
a
no, no.
fine. It's the only money
No,
generator you got.
I think his point was in a $30 million budget.
I get it.
You know, a 0.5%, you know, a third of a percent. is
I
is
get
not
it, but
material.
that's
That's all I think he was saying.
That's accruing a $500
Yeah. Like I said,
fine.
I'm not arguing with your idea of taxing the retail businesses, you know, I mean, maybe.
Every city
maybe that's-
that, around
it's
this-
not gonna be us. but-
Around
but,
here
you know.
though, every city like Davie, Cooper City, they all have commercial property. They have Publixes, they have
But that
shopping
land was
centers.
never dedicated to commercial use, so at what point did that get?
It never
voted
got
in?
zoned commercial. It's agricultural.
So I just, I mean.
You're talking about on the main road,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Ontario Road.
How to go from agriculture to a special retail business.
They won't answer.
You know, I agree a lot about
That's
what
it.
you said.
That's not within our
What Bob
menu,
said
we
is
can't.
true.
Hang on.
What Bob said is true. However, based on the last time I was here, spoke in front of the council, and what I'm witnessing tonight, whether you like it or not, the perception, and I say perception that is out there is, you're trying to push us out to get the mega mansions in, because that's, hold it, because that's where your tax base is coming from. That's the perception.
That's sad.
If I'm wrong, I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
Too bad.
I mean,
That's the way we
Sir,
do it.
I get it.
that's so true, that's a true statement. I mean, I get calls all the time. People call me because they're afraid to come here, because they feel intimidated. I don't feel intimidated anymore. I'm just saying, I don't like talking, I don't like speaking in public. 'Cause
I can
never-
tell, I can tell.
You know, to be honest, but this is getting too far right now. You know, I mean, one of the reasons I didn't make sergeant major in the army is because I had to speak in front of people, and I said, no, I'd rather stay as a first sergeant. You know what? Because I hate doing this, but some people drive me to do this. I get 20 to 30 calls a day of people, hey man, well, you need to say something about this and this and that. And a good neighbor to me, you know what a good neighbor to me is? If you have a problem with your neighbor, and Steve has said that a bunch of times. If you have a problem with your neighbors, go and solve it with your neighbors. Don't disrespect each other like some people have on 210 Terrace. The two people across each other, they basically disrespected each other, calling each other names and everything on the street. If they were to come to me, I'm good in fixing problems. If they were to come to me, I guarantee you I would have fixed the problem. But no, they decided to do it on their own. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but they shouldn't secretly put code
Yeah.
on it either.
And
That's a problem.
so what I'm saying is, a good neighbor to me is, if you have a problem with your neighbors, go talk to them. I'm pretty sure 99% of the time you'll fix the problem. Guarantee you'll fix the problem. But code enforcement to me and to a bunch of people, that's a no-no. 100%.
You definitely, someone doesn't like to speak, you spoke very well, and you made your position heard, so I appreciate it. Absolutely.
Mr. Chair, one last thing if I could.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for showing up. I mean, what a great turnout, what a great discussion. But I do want to tell those that had a hard time hearing about it, please call Town Hall. Pick up the phone, call Town Hall. Get on their contact list. They will send you a notice of everything that's going on. If you pick up the magazine, it tells you when each one of these board meetings take place, and I urge you to show up. Do what Robert said, be a part of it. Don't complain, don't sit here and scream at the last minute. But get on that list, call, they'll tell you what's happening, and, you know, volunteer time back to the town. We got 7 boards, we need everybody, all right? Thank you.
So I have a few more items I need to finish up that are not related to this conversation, but I don't want to shut anybody out. If anyone has anything additional that we haven't already talked about to, for us to be able to consider next time. Anybody? Okay, thank you, everybody. Let's move on to number 6, new business. Tell me we have none. Emily, tell me we have none.
None.
Okay, thank you.
We woke her up.
Board member comments. Comments?
Just once again, thank you all to everybody who came out and expressed your opinions and your feedback. We appreciate it.
No.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out. We will meet the 3rd Thursday every week, every month.
The 3rd Thursday of every week.
Yeah. 3rd Thursday of every week, yes.
Not every week.
And at 7 o'clock, and we will be discussing this again next month. So I hope a bunch of you will show back up, and your input is valuable. And we've discussed a lot of things, and it's a lot for Jeff to try and put into words that are legal. So what I'm trying to say is that it takes time, because we're making the sausage here. And it's very messy, because tonight was messy. A lot of different eddies and flows. Two examples I want to give you is the one was when the state said that all the barns that were built without permits were no longer agricultural, but they were illegal and had to be torn down. That's what the state said. It took us 2 years of working legally to find an answer to that question. So these people that had built barns could keep them. The other thing is that the area out on US 27 that Mr. Bergeron owns, in order to get everything worked out with him to the town's idea and to protect the residents on 210, it took us 9 years every month whacking it out with Bergeron Enterprises and the town and everybody else. 9 years to do that. But we did it. He is happy with what he's got out there. The town is happy with what we have put in place and the protections that we've put in place for those that are out on 210. And said that's as much as it's going to be. And then we expanded it from the east side to the west side, that if South Florida Water Management ever changes that area over and from a conservation area and sells that property for businesses, that's what's going to go on there. It's the same thing that Mr. Bergeron has on the east side. It's already been done. That is what we do on this board. When the council gives us a mandate.
What are they gonna do on the west side?
What?
What are they gonna do on the west side?
What do you mean on the west side?
The construction.
I
going
said,
on.
if they ever sell the property and nothing goes from conservation area, the only thing that can go there is either homes, 2.5 acres, rural ranches, or US 27 Business District on the west side of US 27. That's the only two things that can go there, because we said that is allowed. And that is what we did, this board did, but it took us 9 years to work it out. Because Mr. Bergeron came in with a list that was very extensive and very detrimental to what was the town. And we worked it out, and he has certain building requirements he has to have, certain business requirements he's allowed to have in there, and he cannot have anything other than that. And it took us 9 years to work with him. And finally, he agreed to all of the changes. We agreed to some of his changes, and we're back and forth. So this is not something that I see happening maybe in that time. And it's not as intense as what has been with Mr. Bergeron, and I don't think it's as intense as what the state of Florida did to us as a town with the barns. I think this will take a shorter period of time.
All right, well,
We're going to look at it.
We gotta wrap it up.
I know.
Robert?
Let's wrap it up.
Okay. Any comments?
No, let's wrap it up.
All right, I'll add it. What's your name?
Tony.
Tony, my apologies for getting over the top with you. You brought out a little passion in me, and my apologies.
All right.
But seriously, thanks for everyone for coming out. I would encourage you guys to come to more meetings, or come on the board. Get on this board and sit here from the other side.
Joe, we still have this motion. We need to
vote.
Table.
Oh, okay.
motion to table.
Second. All agree?
Agreed.
Unanimous.
Now you can like table.
All right, nothing for next meeting. We're adjourned.
Okay.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.